Before we get started with this group, I wanted to introduce myself. Many of you may have been following me for a couple months, a couple years. You may have known me for a long time. But where I am at now was definitely not in the same space mentally or physically that I was at when coaching came into my life. And so I wanted to share with you who I was then and who I am now so that you don't automatically start comparing where you are now to where I'm at. I want you to be able to see yourself for who you are now and where you can go with the same opportunity. Your story may not be the same as mine, but I want to paint a picture of growth for you. So when I got started on my own health and fitness journey, my husband was working out of town 5 to 7 days at a time, and he was flip-flopping between nights and days. And so that meant that some days when he came home on his 2 to 3 days off, he was sleeping all the time. And then other times he was part of the family. What led up to him working out of town was the fact that our marriage was in shambles. I had suffered from I would consider it like a nervous breakdown, kind of a midlife crisis. And we were two people that were trauma victims from childhood and from things that had happened in our adult life. And we had jumped into a relationship that was based on trying to save the other person to take away from the work we need to do on ourselves. And although we loved each other so much, we were just so broken, and we had a history of infidelity, and that's how our relationship came about. So there's a lot of shame and guilt with that. We had been raising kids since the late 90s, and here it was, year 2012. And I felt alone in the world. We didn't have family support. He worked out of town, and at the time I had an 11-year-old, I had a 7-year-old, and then an 18-month-old. And then every other weekend, I had a 12-year-old and another 7-year-old that came into our life. And it felt like I didn't have any purpose. I was just going through the motions, and I came home every day exhausted, mentally spent, on edge, unhappy, and didn't feel like a mom. I didn't feel like I was giving my all, but I didn't have the energy to give my all, and I didn't know what to do, and I felt so lost, and I felt so broken, and I just kept thinking, like, is this life? You get up, you go to work, and then you come home and you feel so guilty that you aren't present, and I just felt broken, and I was praying and searching for an answer. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I just knew that this wasn't life. I had suffered from depression and anxiety and suicidal tendencies ever since I was a young child. And I just wanted to die most days. I didn't see a reason to go on living. I didn't even feel like I was worthy to be a parent. And when my relationship, our marriage, was on the rocks, it just kind of felt like my whole universe was off. And it was so hard to create any type of plan when everything felt like it was up in the air. And that's when I met somebody online that I didn't know. She didn't know me. I didn't really have any expectations from her, and I don't think she had any expectations from me. But she was somebody who seemed super positive, and I had never met anyone like her. I never had known anybody that was a regular person. When I say regular, I meant not a celebrity person that worked with trainers or was in the fitness industry, but I never met anybody who was a mom and that loved fitness or had an amazing body. And here was this woman who was in her late 30s, who had small children, very close in age, that were just a little bit older than my son at the time. And she had amazing abs, and she loved fitness, and everything that she posted, it seemed like she was happy, and that's what I wanted. And up until that point, I had always surrounded myself with people who were just like me, negative, bitter, angry, abusing alcohol and drugs, and just kind of stuck in life. And so here was this person that gave me hope. And so I reached out to her, and the only thing that I could really ask from her is help to get healthy and fit. And I never felt like I could ever be that person that was fit. But I had already started to understand that my health was something to take care of, and that the way I ate affected my immune system and affected my children's immune system, but I really didn't know where to turn. But I reached out to her and she took a chance on me, and I remember feeling so honored that somebody would take the time to help me, and I didn't want to let her down. And it was so strange because we had this different relationship because we didn't know one another. She lived in Miami. I lived outside of, Houston, in between Houston and Austin. I didn't think I'd ever meet her, but she gave me hope. And so I duplicated what I saw her do. I listened to what she shared because I wanted the same results. And ultimately, I wanted happiness and health. And I wanted to feel good about myself. I was at the point where I was so ashamed of who I was. I remember when I finally took the leap, when I decided to go all in and I decided to take a chance on me, even though I told myself that it was probably not going to work, but I was going to give it 30 days. And if not, I was going to return it and get my money back. And that was the only reason I ordered. But I remember the first day when I decided that, I wanted to be one of those transformations. I wanted to be somebody that had that before and after, even though I didn't think that somebody like me could ever have that. I decided to take pictures because I was like, I'm going to do it right. I didn't own a tape measure and I didn't own a scale. So I don't know how much weight I was carrying extra. I don't even know what my measurements were. I just knew I didn't fit my clothes. I had like 2 outfits that I fit in. But I took pictures, and I remember trying to figure out how I was going to take these pictures. And then I remember asking my 11-year-old daughter, and as I stood in front of her, I was so ashamed. I was so embarrassed. Looking back, I was like, my children didn't judge me. They loved me, and they still think it's silly when I tell them that story. But I was so ashamed of who I was. And the fact was, like, I didn't even tell my husband that I was starting this because I was ashamed of who I was. Like, I can't even fathom standing in front of him at that point in time in the light of day, having him take my pictures. Like, that's where we were as a couple, and that's where I was as a person. I was so ashamed of my body. I couldn't have imagined telling him that I felt the way I did, or standing before him in a, tank top and shorts. Like I didn't even actually have fitness clothes, but that's where I was. And so Beachbody, my coach, the programs, the tools, the support, the community has helped me become a person now that is no longer ashamed of who I am, no longer ashamed of the things that I feel that make me feel vulnerable. I no longer feel guilty for who I am. And I now can stand proudly in front of the masses and in front of my family, the people who matter the most, and be able to own my feelings and use my story to inspire others. So I've come a long way. My journey is almost 6 years strong. And so I want to share with you where I was before, that I was not confident. I did not feel secure. I was not happy. I was not hopeful. I was not goal-driven. I was not wealthy. I was never a success. And I never saw myself as a success. But now I know who I am, who I want to be. And even though I still have a long ways to go, I feel this passion inside, and I feel this feeling of happiness, hopefulness, and I feel sure that I'm going to continue to do great things. And I want to inspire you, because so many people are like I was a long time ago and feel like success isn't for me. Success isn't something that I was born to ever feel or experience, but it is. That it's all about mindset. Whatever you do in life is all about mindset, but you need to surround yourself with the people with the right mindset who encourage you to keep your head in the game, because it's so easy to get off track nowadays. It's so easy to get discouraged. It is so easy to fall trap into that negative, poor me, victim mindset that I lived in forever. And I'm here to tell you that it sounds so cliche, but it's with a snap of a finger, with a flick of a switch, you can change everything. But it's all about who you're surrounding yourself with, what you're using your time, how you're using your time. And so I'm here to share with you my story and what I've done to get past that life of shame, of guilt, of beating myself up for all the things that I did wrong and all the things that I squandered. And I'm here to share with you and invite you to join me on the journey and to step out of your comfort zone and to get rid of that cloak of shame, that cloak of fear that is holding you back. So I hope that my story and the stories that I share with you inspire you. And I hope that you will take into consideration how this opportunity can change and shape your life.